In addition to the firmware update for the James Tyler Variax, we're also announcing the new POD HD2.0 firmware update at the same time. Some of the stuff that's in the pod is there to help support the JTV's upgrade, but there are also a bunch of new amps in there as well. So the first is actually the first HD bass amp. It's based upon the Ampeg B15 Portaflex combo that we have in the office. And there's a bunch of new microphones specifically for that cabinet as well. There are 2 channels that were inspired by the Plexi that we have in the office, which is pretty cool. I'll show you those in a bit. And also a vintage tube mic preamp with filtering. So there's some new deep cabinet editing parameters you're going to see. There's some new Variax options. Basically, we're going to play some guitar tones, play some bass sounds, and also there'll be some dancing. Okay, so now we're looking at the screen of the HD500, and you can see I have a very simple signal chain here, just one amp, and that is the new Ampeg-inspired B15, the flip top. So you've got the cabinet that goes right along with it, and you have the amp. So if you double click the enter button, you can get into basically the editing area for all of the parameters of the amp. And you can see that it actually has 8 different microphones. So a ton of brand new microphones that were all captured just on this cabinet, which is pretty cool. And you see the same exact sort of granularity in the power amp section that you had when we started adding this in the last pod update. So you've got master volume sag, you've got hum, you have all the bias excursion and the bias that you traditionally had in the last update. So you can still tweak the bass amp the same way, and the same thing worked for the Plexi. And you have the same cabinet page that you had before with the addition of a new one. And so now you've got some deep cabinet editing parameters. So you've got resonance level, you've got thump, and you also have decay. So between decay on this page and early reflection on the other page, you can actually sort of dial in or dial out any ambient room noise that you might want on that speaker cabinet. So it's actually really, really flexible. So let's go through. I'm just going to play a little slap bass line and a little P-bass style bass line to hear what it sounds like with just this very simple signal chain. So you can tell that the bass sounds really nice in multiple pickup positions. So it sounds like a mic cabinet. It's awesome. Let's buck convention and put a fretless bass solo on top of this. We'll just scare people. It'll be awesome. So we'll go to a new preset, and you can see that from left to right. I have a compressor. I have a bass octaver on here to give me more of that Pino Palladino-y thing, but it's turned down. It's not super loud. And then I have the Ampeg again, but I'm going to switch the mic. Let's switch that to a 57 on axis. There we go. And I've got a low res delay and also a little bit of reverb. So let us commence with the dancing. All right, so we're done with bass. Let's go and hear what this new Plexi sounds like by recalling this preset. And now you can see that I have 2 different versions of that amp. I've got normal and bright, and both of them default to a 412 with 25 watt greenbacks in them and a 421 on it. If I recall my preset, you can see that I've got a 4038 ribbon on mine. So if you double tap enter just to get into the deep editing parameters of the amp, you can see all the same stuff is there, all the power amp stuff, the bias excursion, and also the new deep cabinet editing parameters are there. And if you look at the signal chain from left to right, I have a fuzz, I have the amp, I have an EQ, which is pulling out just a little bit of low mid, and a ping pong delay, and that's it. Now the whole idea behind this example is I'm going to be using the guitar's volume knob to do all the changes for me. So until I hit the fuzz, all of the changes you're hearing in the tone are based upon me just turning the guitar up. So it's a very natural feeling, tactile feeling amplifier. So here we go. And finally, if you want to check out what that vintage tube mic preamp sounds like, that would be under the preamp and EQ section. Scroll to the end, and those parameters are gain, output, phase reverse, high pass filter, and low pass filter. So it sounds great in front of or behind instruments. It also sounds great when you combine it with the optical tube limiter because that makes a really nice high quality vocal chain. So it's a nice addition to the family. Now there's a bunch of parameters that are there in the 2.0 update to help assist the Variax 1.80 update. So those are in the other video. So if you want to see that stuff, check that out. I know the dancing was probably traumatic. Sorry about that. But I imagine you got an idea of what's going on with the POD HD 2.0 update. If you have a relevant POD HD unit, that will be available for you soon as a download. Just keep checking line6.com for its availability. And I will see you again soon. Thanks for your time. Cheers.